Okay guys, so I'm gonna make a chocolate souffle. I know we just finished talking about egg whites and their action in a souffle, what they do, how the proteins coagulate, and how the air incorporated causes the souffle to rise. So I want you guys to make a souffle this week, and I'm gonna go over it with you. Now, a souffle can sound or seem a little scary, but really you guys are going to be surprised how easy it is. Once you know the ins and outs and how to do it, you can make any kind of flavor souffle that you want. It can allow a lot of creativity and it impresses a lot of people. And honestly, the ingredients are fairly basic, so it's pretty cool. A souffle basically has two things. It has a base and it has the meringue, the whipped eggs. So we're gonna make our base first, and then we're gonna make our whipped meringues. One small tip that I have found over the years, because I've been making this recipe for a very long time, is if your base is warm when you fold your egg whites in. Hold on, I have a cat. I had a cat coming on the counter. If your base is warm and you fold in your meringue and your egg whites, it will just slightly stabilize that batter, and it will give you a lot more time. In fact, I have made souffle many times, and the base has been so good that if it's kept cold in the cooler, you can actually make souffle with that base the next day and it will rise just as high. And most of the time when I make souffles with this recipe, it rises double the size of the ramekin. That's really the goal that you want. Here's our ramekin. I have all different size ramekins here. I don't have any that match at my house. We have all different sizes. This is probably like a nice size for a single serving. This is a little bit smaller. I might make a smaller one tonight. These I have at school, and you guys will be able to take some of these to use if you don't have a ramekin at home. Some of you will be on campus and you can pick some up when you come onto campus. So that being said, we're gonna start with our base. Now what we have, everything scaled out, all our mise en place. I have my bread flour, high gluten flour. I have my unsalted butter, my egg yolks, my egg whites, my chocolate. I have my sugars, everything that I need to make, and my milk. I have my milk already sitting on the stove, ready to go here. So the first thing I'm gonna do, oh wait, I wanna mention this. You're gonna wanna use your KitchenAid mixer if you have one. You probably, like me, only have one bowl. A lot of kitchens you'll have multiple bowls, so you don't have to do this, but you're gonna have to wash your bowl before you do the next step, and it's very important that you do that because it could cause a timing issue if you're stopping to wash the bowl. So I'll tell you when you wash the bowl, and that's when you should probably do it. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put our butter in the bowl with the paddle. It's room temperature butter. And our high gluten bread flour. Now all we're gonna do is we're gonna combine these two, and we're gonna make what's called a roux. Now we don't use that term too often in the pastry shop. It's more of a culinary term, but it's butter and flour mixed together. And culinary kitchens, they thicken it, they cook it and they thicken it, and then they add it to their sauces. We're actually gonna just combine in the mixer the butter and the flour, just so it forms it comes together and forms a ball. Let's start on low. I'm just gonna let that go for a second. Now it is a pretty small amount that we make. I'm used to making this recipe in giant batches, like the large mixer at the shop at Mcfatter. I think it's an 80 quart. I've made souffle every day and a size mixer that big, and you're up to your arms in batter. We're making a very small amount. This step we maybe could use, just use our elbow grease and do it by hand, but I want to show you guys how we would do it in a professional kitchen. So we would use our mixer. This is coming together pretty good. I'm gonna speed it up, and then I'm gonna be grabbing my phone and showing you and then setting it back down. With my camera skills, you know, aren't always the best, but that's okay. Hope you guys can hear me okay with this mixer. This is coming together. When you get really good at doing this, if you do it every day, you can probably start your milk on the heat while this is mixing, but we're gonna just take it slow steps this time. Okay. All right, so let me just show you guys. Can you see inside of the bowl? It just kind of comes together. We're gonna form it into a ball. Let me take it out and then I'll show you. Okay. Now we're done with the paddle. We don't need the paddle anymore. So I'm gonna put that in the sink. And just gonna bring this together. So this is like our roux mixture. It's gonna make start our base for our souffle. So you should be able to just grab it, pick it up with your hands. It's like a soft dough. Just butter and flour, that's all it is. And it formed a ball, okay? I'm just gonna set this, if you guys can see, I'm gonna set this just next to the burner by the stove on a piece of parchment paper, and I have my milk that I'm going to be bringing to a boil. Now this is the time that I'm gonna need to wash my bowl because, got a little bit of it on here, every bit, because we need our bowl to be squeaky clean because we're gonna be whipping egg whites, right? You don't want any fat present because that would inhibit the egg whites to whip up. So I'm gonna wash my bowl really well, real quick. I got my dishwater ready. So that's part of your mise en place. Make sure your dishwater is ready. Trying to move quick. Sorry it's so loud. All right. Dry it out. Dry paper towel. Okay, so I'm gonna get this ready for our egg whites. So I'm gonna need my whip. Just gonna go ahead and get that ready and make sure the whip's clean as well, of course. All right, so we're not whipping egg whites yet. I just wanna have it ready to go. I have my egg whites here, ready to go. Okay, now, before I start my milk, actually I'm gonna go ahead and start my milk. Let me do that. Okay, my milk is on high. You know me, I like to just turn it up on high. Why wait around, right? So our milk is on the heat. We have in our bowl our eggs that are already separated. My 2 ounces of egg yolks ended up being like 3.5 egg yolks for me, maybe 4 egg yolks for you, depending on the size of your egg yolk. I'm gonna put my egg yolks and I'm just gonna lightly whisk them just to break them up. We're not doing anything but breaking them up. And then let me just show you. Okay. And then I'm gonna dump my chocolate. Now you guys, your chocolate might look a little different. All I had at home was a 65%, so mine won't be quite as chocolatey. I prefer a darker chocolate. It has more chocolate liqueur, like 75, or even a combination of unsweet and 75. All right, so we have chocolate and egg yolks in this bowl, just sitting, hanging out. We have milk on the heat, and we're waiting for that to come to a boil. When our milk comes to a boil, let me bring this over here. When our milk comes to a boil, which it's happening quickly, I'm gonna set that here. All right. Then we're going to add our ball of our roux mixture all at once to our milk. I have a wooden spoon here ready to go, and I'm gonna be mixing that quickly. So when it comes together, we don't have any lumps. It'll kind of come together and make like a thick, kind of a gluey mixture. Similar to when we make our pâte à choux, but not quite, but sort of. So it's just getting a little bit hot. It's starting to come together. Now I have my oven already preheated. Now on the original formula that you guys have, That recipe was designed for Council Oak Steakhouse over at the Hard Rock. We made it over there. I've made it at lots of places, actually. This recipe is near and dear to me. I've been making this recipe for, gosh, since the late 90s. I originally came from the Ritz-Carlton. Pastry chef there worked at the same restaurant that I worked at. Oh, here it goes. It's coming to a boil. I'll finish that story later. I'm going to put all this in at once. And I'm gonna very quickly mix this up. Kind of break it up. Now, I may grab a whisk. I think I will. I'm gonna grab a whisk and whisk this up so we don't have any lumps. Try to find a stiff whisk if you have it. I know that can be hard. A lot of the whisks are flimsy. Yeah, whisk is much better because it's such a small amount. Okay, gonna show you what it looks like. Here you go. Okay, taking it off the heat. Gonna bring you guys over here again. Let's see here. Back to my setup here. Okay, turn my heat off. All right, so we have this mixture. That's very hot. Now we're going to very quickly. Now, I usually do this on the machine, but I think because it's a small amount, I can do it right in the bowl by hand. Sometimes if you have to do it on the machine, then you have to wash the bowl a second time. Well, we're gonna just do it by hand. So I'm gonna put this mixture on with my egg yolk and chocolate, and yes, it's hot, so that's why we have to move quickly. Okay, we're gonna just stir that up very quickly. The chocolate's gonna melt. We're gonna stir fast so our egg whites don't coagulate. I mean our egg yolks, sorry, egg yolks. Because we just want that to blend in. Okay, chocolate's starting to melt. Now, if you decided that you wanted to do a different flavor, this would be the stage that you would put that flavor in. If you're not gonna do chocolate, maybe you'd want to just put some vanilla extract in. Maybe you want to add some Grand Marnier and orange zest. Maybe you want to add a small amount of a potent fruit puree, something strong, you know, so it kind of shows up in the flavors. Maybe you want to do lemon. You could do a little bit of lemon juice and some lemon zest. Sky's the limit, right? Maybe you could do a nut paste. You might want to try hazelnut or peanut butter. That would be interesting. Okay, so we have our base here. It's all mixed up. Now I'm gonna actually have to grab a larger bowl because we're gonna need a lot more space when we put our egg whites into our mix. I'm gonna show you guys what it looks like. Okay, it's like a thick chocolatey batter. Let me grab a larger bowl because we're gonna be starting our egg whites soon. Loud. Sorry. Okay, so we're gonna put our base in our bowl. Now at this point I want to move kind of quickly, and this differs from a lot of different chefs that I've heard. They'll let this cool down. I don't want this to cool down. This is warm. When I fold my egg whites in, it just helps lock in those air holes, air bubbles in the souffle, and it keeps that batter way more stable. Super important. Okay. So we're gonna put our egg whites in the bowl, all of them, 11.5 ounces. We're going to start mixing them on high, and we're gonna mix them until they are a little bit foamy. Also, this would be the stage you would put your cream of tartar in. I don't have any cream of tartar, so I just put a little bit of lemon in the bowl, okay? Be careful not to get any lemon oil in with your meringue because that could inhibit the mixing. All right. Something that I forgot to mention, when I had my milk on the heat, I also had half of the sugar in there. If you look at your formula, it has 2 ounces of sugar in 2 places. 2 ounces of that sugar was in with my milk when I brought that to boil. So you're gonna have half of it in, and then the other half is gonna go in my egg whites, which are now nice and foamy. Let me show you. Okay, now I'm gonna start adding my egg whites slowly. Let's see if I can get a better angle here. Start adding that slowly to the mix. Now we're going to be whipping that to soft peaks. Let that go. Now if your egg whites are room temperature, they'll whip a lot quicker. Mine are a little bit cold. You could use your trusty blowtorch if you have to warm them up. I don't have mine handy right now. Just waiting for these to whip. Coming up pretty nicely. Always stay with your egg whites because you don't want them to over whip. If they over whip and get too dry, you're going to lose a lot of volume. You always want to stay with them. And these egg whites don't have a lot of sugar in them, so it's kind of an optical illusion. You're in your mind, you're thinking they should be shinier because you're so used to your meringues having a lot of sugar in them. But this one does not. So you can see I have a soft peak here. Okay, I'm gonna go just a tinge more. You don't quite want a stiff peak, but you want it kind of in between. I guess you'd say a medium peak is really what you want. Just a little bit longer, not too much. Okay, take a look here. Okay, that looks good. All right, so it's still pretty soft. Not super stiff, but almost stiff. Okay. Now we're gonna do the fun part, the folding of the egg whites. So what you're gonna do, you wanna put a small amount, less than a third, but almost a third of your egg whites into your base. And this is just gonna soften it up. Sometimes I even get in there with my hand and a glove. You want to make sure it's nice and smooth at this stage because you don't want lumps in your batter. So I'm just combining all this. Actually going to use my hands just to get in there, kind of do a little spider web, make sure there's no lumps in there. Get that smooth. That way you can just fold it evenly. Okay. All right, I'll wash my hands. This batter is still a little bit warm, which is good. That's what I want. Okay. All right, now I'm gonna put half of that into my base. Okay, now when we're folding, you wanna do rotating and fold, rotate and fold. I'll show you in the last part when I get closer to. stage, you don't want to knock out too much air, but you want to make sure it's smooth. Okay. Wash my hands again. Okay, now I'm going to add the remaining egg whites to our bowl. Make sure you get all of it out. All right, see if I can show you guys this. Now you guys did this before, right? When you did your genoise, you did the folding. Let's see here, well, let me see if I can't really quite rotate and hold my phone, but you can see I'm going up and over, up and over as I'm rotating. Oh, it's rotating on its own, up and over, okay? You don't want to deflate and knock the air out at this stage. Okay, up and over, up and over. There we go. You just want to do that until you don't see any more streaks of egg white in your batter. Okay. And there we have a finished souffle batter. Okay, ready to go. All right, now our ramekins, I'm gonna show you guys quickly how to prepare them. Now this is something that I would have done ahead of time. I think this is, you could do this really anytime. If you're making souffle for service, you would definitely have these all done ahead of time. You might have 20 or 30 ramekins ready to go. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take some room temperature butter, and you're gonna need a pastry brush. So the butter is soft, and we're gonna butter our ramekin. I'm gonna put some butter in the bottom, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to, in an upward motion, butter all the way around. You want to make sure you're going like straight and out, up, and that kind of helps tell the souffle that you want it to rise up with those lines. If your ramekin has a rim like this, then you're going to want to butter the rim too. I prefer ramekins that don't have this rim, but these do. Okay. All right, now you're gonna get some sugar. And what you're gonna do is we're gonna put the sugar inside of the ramekin. And you would have all your ramekins already buttered. Then you would go ahead and go and sugar all of them. So let's say this one is buttered. This one is also buttered. We're gonna take our sugar and we're gonna just spin it and let it fall into the next one. That way we're not wasting a lot of time with extra motions, right? And then you just keep going around and around. All right, so you see this is totally coated. Okay. Okay. Now we're gonna take our souffle batter and gonna ladle it directly in the center. You don't want to let it drip, and you don't want it to touch the edges because that can cause it to bake sideways or stick. And you want to try, your goal is for it to go straight up. So we're gonna put that right in the center. Now something else you can do, we used to do all the time, you could put something in the middle. You could put some roasted nuts inside, some raspberries inside, some chopped up Snickers bar, anything. Right in the middle, and then you put the top on. Then you can name it Snickers souffle. Oh, see what I did? You don't want that to happen. You don't want it to go on a lip. You really want to stay right in the center. Suppose you could use an ice cream scoop. That might be a good tool to have as well. All right. Okay, now you want to fill it as full as you can, all the way up, because the fuller it is, the higher it's going to rise, right? So you see, this is all the way to the top. Now, I started talking about oven temperature. When it comes to oven temperature, the original formula that you guys have says 350. I think 350 is too low. That was originally designed for a really, really large souffle. I mean, that souffle was like twice the size of this. It was a steakhouse size. It was a shareable dessert. So that's why it was at a lower temperature, because we wanted to make sure it fully cooked all the way through. I doubt you're gonna do a souffle that large. Maybe you are, maybe you just wanna do one giant souffle. You could give it a try. If you're gonna do a size similar to this, what I would do is I would put my oven at 400. Now the ovens at home lose heat really quickly. So you're gonna put it at 400, and when you open the oven, you're gonna lose a lot of heat. You're gonna pop the souffle in. You're not gonna put this on a cookie sheet. You're gonna set it right in the oven just like this. You need it to be hot underneath. Now, if you don't like that, you can put your cookie sheet in the oven ahead of time so it's preheated. And you could pull your cookie sheet out, put the souffles on the hot cookie sheet, and then put it in the oven if you want to bake more than one at a time. I'm going to bake one at a time like you do in the restaurants, because you bake them as they're ordered. So I'm going to put it directly in the oven without a cookie sheet, just right on the rack. I'm going to put it in at 400, then I'm going to drop it down to 375. 375 is what I'm going to bake this at. Now I also have a convection oven, so you guys will have to just play with it. You're going to have to see. That's the thing about souffles. When you work somewhere and you have a set size, you'll nail it down to the exact time. But we're making it for the first time, and we all have different size ramekins. We all have different size or types of ovens. So I would suggest baking a few at a time. Do one, see how it comes out. Maybe do another one. Also, while it's baking in the oven, you can have your sauces ready. Remember we talked about creme anglaise. I have some creme anglaise made. I'm gonna make it a little Grand Marnier flavored creme anglaise with some orange zest. You could have a little fresh whipped cream to go with it, chocolate sauce if you'd like, and some powdered sugar to dust on top. So you wanna have all that ready to go when you put it in the oven, or while it's baking, you can get those things out and ready to go. All right, souffle is going in. Should I bring it? I'll bring the camera with me. We'll prop it over here. There we go. Okay, it's going in. Okay, all right. Now I will show you guys the finished product after it bakes, and also we're gonna bake another one live in class. So, all righty, thank you.